This evening we're going to be going into week 6 of our Habits of Health system, and we're going to, basically the program that we have for those of you who are new, because it seems like I see a few new faces pretty much every week, and so basically what we're doing with the Habits of Health system is there are certain habits that we all need to have to be able to not just get to our healthy weight, but ultimately be able to stay there. And really our goal as we progress through the Habits of Health is to help everyone see that there's always a next step. We don't get to a healthy spot and stay there forever unless we're doing the healthy habits that are going to keep us there. So we just want to make sure that everyone understands what those are, and we kind of go through one little bite-sized piece at a time. The nice part is each week that we do this, the lessons are kind of independent of each other. You don't necessarily have to have been to weeks 1 through 5 to understand week 6. So, and keep in mind, we're gonna, after 12 weeks are up, we'll loop right back through and start again. So, we want to make sure that people really, one of the things that we find is you start to see some of the weak areas that you might have had, and you start working on those, and then as you go through, you're like, crap, now I forgot about this over here. And so it's a matter of just kind of keeping refreshed in our mind. And we have lots of people that this is their second and third time rolling through, and that's great. Come out as long as you need to. We love having you come out and join us and share your stories and experiences. So yeah, we appreciate you coming out. Last week, I want to say we had about 25 or 30 people here, and if I remember right, it was about, 1,300 pounds or something like that we had lost in the room. So it was a little over 50 pounds per person, and that's typically what we see with the classes that we do that we have coming out. It's anywhere from around the 45 to 55 range per person, about average. And so we have pretty awesome results, and the program is great. It's nice and simple, but again, the stuff that we're talking about here is really kind of going to be to help so it settles in, so you really have a grasp on how to master your health. So in week 4, we talked about controlling our energy intake, managing our insulin pump, and so the what we're taking in, and actually what we talk about tonight kind of pulls this week 4 and 5 together. But so we're going to talk a little bit about those, recap on those, and then week 5, eating for weight control. So again, what we're eating, how we're eating, and then implementing the 9-inch plate and energy management. So tonight we actually kind of bring both of those together, and it's almost a recap of those 2 weeks. So if this is your first week, you picked a good week to come. We're gonna just wrap all this stuff up. So again, I don't have the books here. We use Dr. Anderson's Habits of Health as our guide, and there's a companionship guide that goes along with it that basically has workbook. It's almost like a journal. It's something that you can write in to take you through these lessons, so so you can get to where you want to be. Basically, what we know is whenever we write down our goals and we're writing things down, we're always going to achieve more than if we don't. So we certainly encourage everyone to kind of to work through those. We're gonna hit on them in these classes we do, but at home, read through those chapters. There's information in there that we don't cover every single thing that's in those chapters. So make sure you're just taking advantage of that information there, and then next month we'll let you come up and teach, and it'll be good for you. So so basically, here's what we're going to talk about is the science of eating. And really, when we break it down, there's the 3 core principles are the fuel control, hunger control, and waist control. And when we talk about waist, we're talking about the waist circumference, not about waist. So basically, we're going to kind of go through each one of these a little bit here, and really just clarify what we're talking about, and really how to make it work for you, and really so you understand everything that we're talking about. So this first core principle is our fuel control. So when we look at fuel, what I want you to think about, we use fuel for our cars. We use fuel to heat our homes. You know, when you go camping, you have different fuel that you use, you know, in the fire to warm you, okay? And when we talk about the fuel that we're putting in our body, it's very much the same. You put crummy gas in your car, it doesn't run quite as nice as it would if you put the super. And the same goes if you're burning let's say you're camping. You know, you can throw a big pile of pine, and let me tell you, my kids, every time I go camping, they always try and find the big pile of pine needles, because you throw it on there and this big flame shoots up. It burns out in about 10 seconds, but it's fun to see this huge flame come up. So, you know, you look at that, and there are things that we actually eat that it does that exact same thing in our body. You know, the refined carbohydrates, when we eat those, if that's all we have, what happens is we get this spike in energy, and then boom, it's gone. We fall on our face. So understanding this fuel control and mastering how we combine the portion sizes and what we're eating and how frequently we're eating, we can actually start to combine. You know, if you use some of the fast burning fuel and then you also use it with slower burning fuel, you know, different kinds of wood are going to burn a lot slower and longer and hotter. And so the same thing is with the fuel that we put in our body. Certain things we eat are going to break down slower. They're going to keep our blood sugar at a more even level for a longer period, and they're going to give us a more steady energy, so we don't just hit the top and then fall on our face. So portion control. We talked a few weeks ago about the 9-inch plate rule. Okay, when we start, when we're eating normally, we want to eat frequently. Okay, we want to make sure we're eating several times a day. But right here is learning how much food do we eat. Since the 70s, our portions have gone from 2 to 7 times what they used to be. So, in just a quick nutshell, if you are thinking about a 9-inch plate is somewhere about this big around. You know, if you were to take that and put half of it as vegetables, quarter of it as protein, and the other quarter as your starch, you're going to have a pretty good balance. You know, I talked about the fuels. If you're throwing pine needles, it's going to flare up. You know, the pine needles are kind of the starches. They burn fast. The others are going to break down more slowly, and they're going to give you that long, steady energy. So, you know, and by doing this, what's going to happen is you're going to start understanding what a normal portion size should be. One of the things, Dr. Arnold just was talking with a gentleman the other day. He and his wife were, they're all set to do the program, right? And then he looked at the meals, and he's like, I can't do this. He's like, I'm going to starve to death. Those little meals are never going to be able to satisfy me. He was like, I don't think I can do it. That's just not enough food. And what's interesting is most guys that do this, when they see the little bars or the pack, that's the first thing they all say is, come on, you got to be kidding me. That's not going to keep me satisfied. But what we find after you get on it and you eat every few hours, all of a sudden you're like, wow, I'm actually doing pretty good. I have really good energy. I'm not starving. And it's because, you know, again, in our mind we think, because we've been getting these huge portions for so long, we think, I got to eat a lot more than just a little bar. So this is going to help you in time realize that, you'll know the little things that you can do to eat that'll get you by, satisfy you, give you the fuel and energy that your body needs. So portion control is just understanding what a normal size portion should be. A little 9-inch plate. You know, it's not you don't need a tremendous amount of food. But again, you know, and when you look at what we do eat, you know, let's say the fast food that we're eating. So, you know, a lot of that is very high in carbohydrates. The stuff that you burn that off really fast. When you eat that kind of, I know whenever I eat fast food, which is very rarely anymore, I'm starving like an hour later. I could have a big fast, burger, fries, all that junk that goes with it, and I'm telling you, I'm starving in an hour. And it's because you just rip through that stuff so fast, that fuel in your body, and you are hungry, even though it's high in calories and you should have more than enough calories there for half the day. What's going to happen is you burn through that. You've already dropped to a low in your blood sugar, and your body says, I need more food. So now the 3-hour fueling, this is one the great part about this, and this is really important, probably one of the most important things that we can do with learning to manage what we're eating, is making sure we're eating frequently. I want to say earlier we've talked about how our blood sugar spikes and drops with how we eat. What happens is by eating frequently, basically by the time your blood sugar starts to fall, it's already time to eat again. So it's only dropped a little bit. You eat another meal, it comes right back up, and then it just drops down. So you have a nice, even, steady energy flow throughout the day. So you don't feel that 3 o'clock in the afternoon like you're just dragging tail, can't wait till you're off work. Or when you get home, all you want to do is just eat something and just hit the couch and lay down. You'll have the energy that you need. And the best part about it is by doing that, what it does, that we talked about the insulin pump. So our insulin is when we eat carbohydrates, our insulin goes up. And the whole role of insulin is to take those sugars and jam them into our cells, okay? So our body has energy to move and function and do everything that it needs to do. So we spike our insulin, and it just immediately starts stashing away all this energy, and whatever is excess, it stores as fat. So if we're eating frequently and we keep this turned down, what happens is as we take energy in, we are burning that energy as we're breaking it down. We're not stuffing it. We're not just trying to jam it into the cells as quick as we can and then store the rest as fat. So what happens is by doing that, we're basically shutting off our fat storage mechanism and turning on the fat burn. So that's kind of the magic behind it. As not to mention that when you think about it, and you eat frequently, you're never going to have that I'm totally starving feeling. So you're not going to, whenever you're starving, you're always going to make the wrong decision. Always. Because there's too many things that are fast and easy and not good for you that taste good. And so, you know what? You're going to do that. It's going to make it so much easier for you to make the wrong decision. So that right there, eating 2 to 3 times a day is critical for all of us to maintain, our weight and to maintain our health. And again, we talked earlier, keeping that energy level nice and even. And then, we're not going to have the big high swings. And by balancing that plate like I showed you, you're going to get the right balance of nutrients as well. It's going to help you to make sure you're getting the vitamins and the minerals and the fiber and everything else that you need for a good healthy diet, for a good healthy digestive system, and then ultimately the cravings. Again, just for those of you who are new, cravings are created because of the spikes and falls in our blood sugar. What happens is, when you do that over and over, it very much is like a drug, the reaction that our bodies go through. We create these triggers in our mind that as soon as our blood sugar hits the top and falls, oh man, I want. That's why people have cravings for chocolates. And most people, unless you're Dr. Arnold, most people don't have cravings for like just a steak every. I'm craving bread. I'm craving potatoes. I'm craving. They're not necessarily craving a big steak. I was this afternoon, but. Anyways, that most people, it's carbohydrates, it's sugary things, it's sweets. And it's because sweets have that effect, they spike that blood sugar so high, and our brain just says, man, give me more of that, give me more of that energy spike. So we actually create those. So by keeping our blood sugar nice and even, rather than big spikes and lows, and keeping it nice and even, we pretty much turn off those cravings. Again, those of you who are on the program, you notice that after about that first 4 days to the first week, somewhere in there, you'll notice that cravings, not that things don't necessarily look good or sound good, you're not dying to have those things that you once were. So it makes a big difference. Again, so the fueling percentages, we already talked about this, is basically just breaking that 9-inch plate in half. Remember those percentages. 50% fruits and vegetables, protein 25%, and starches the other 25%. And so now principle 2 is when we talk about hunger control, there's a few things that kind of, the first thing that everyone worries whenever they start any diet program or weight loss program is, am I going to be starving on the program? I mean, that's like the number one question. Am I going to starve? They don't want to do it because they don't want to starve. I mean, it's like punishment, you know. It's like taking a hammer and smashing your thumb, you know, every other day. And, you know, I mean, it's not fun. No one wants to starve. And so there's a few things that we want to keep in mind when it comes to making sure we feel full and we don't feel like we're starving. The first one was, you know, that eating every 2 to 3 hours. That dramatically helps people feel full. But volumetrics, so there are certain foods that are going to take up more room in our stomach. And they're going to be lower in calories. They're going to make you feel, and they're going to take longer to break down. They'll make you feel full for much longer. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. Energy density is, again, you'll notice that some of the things that you can eat a ton of, you know, let's just say like nuts. You know, it's really easy to eat a ton of, you know, the dry roasted almonds or peanuts or something like that, and they have a tremendous amount of calories. So, you know, when you look at that, you know, you want to look and understand how much energy is in those food. And again, it's typically the ones that are very energy dense are the ones that are real easy to eat a lot of. You know, so, I mean, think about it. You look at 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, which is a typical serving size. It's usually 220 to 240 calories. So 2 bites, you have 240 calories, whereas you could have a huge plate of salad and probably not have 240 calories. So, you know, I mean, you just look at that. That's kind of what we're talking about between volumetrics and the energy density. Sensory specific. And we'll talk a little bit about that, but you know, oftentimes the foods that are very salty and the ones that are very sweet and or sour, those are the ones that are going to have a tendency to make you want to eat a lot more of. And that's kind of a reason why restaurants cook the food the way that they do, because they know that you're going to eat more of it and want more of it if they make it super spicy or you know, that's sweet and sour and things like that. Those actually trigger us to eat more. And then, you know, in protein enhancement, fiber, those are all different things that will help you feel full for much longer. So in the volumetrics, again, eat the foods that are, you know, are vegetables, are fruits. Typically they're going to have, you know, they're going to have a lot of water in them. They're going to have a lot of fiber in them. So they're going to take up a lot more room, like physical room inside of our gut. And, you know, in our stomach, we have these nice little stretch receptors that say you stretch to a certain point in your life, and it's supposed to trigger your mind to say, hey, I'm good. My stomach's nice and full. And so, you know, these types of foods are going to help you to do that, and just taking up more room. And not to mention, you know, the fruits and vegetables, the fiber that are in those that's really what helps keep our digestive system healthy. It makes us, you know, process food better, eliminate food better. And that's ultimately part of getting to a healthy weight, is actually making your gut healthier as you do it. You'll notice that, you know, foods that used to not agree with you will actually start being fine because of, you know, your digestive system getting healthier. Energy density. So again, we kind of talked about this. Basically, the energy density, this is something they actually use in Europe a lot more so than they do here. I don't know if it's that our government thinks that we're not smart enough to figure it out, but what they do is they actually, on their food, and sometimes you can see it here, there's a few products that'll have it here in the States, but it'll say ED, and it'll have a 1, a 2, a 3, you know, and what that's saying, in fact, yeah, oops. So right down here at the bottom is if it's something that has a 1 or less, it's basically going to say that, you know, you could eat a lot more of this, and typically it's going to be one of those things that are going to be more, it's going to have more fiber, more protein, something like that. So it talks about how much energy is in that food. You know, you look at the ones to avoid. I'm guessing that Oreo cookies are probably right down here at the energy density over 2. You know, a bag of chips is going to be an energy density over 2, and it's because there's so much calories packed in something that you could just eat a ton of. So we just want to make sure as we go through, you know, understanding this makes it easier when you're walking through the store to kind of walk by some of those things that you really, maybe at one time or still crave a lot of. You know, it's just understanding what the effect that has on your body, what it does. You know, I mean, Oreo cookies are gonna, you know, they're gonna, you're going to eat them, and then 20 minutes later you're going to want the rest of the bag, you know what I mean, or the rest of the. I was corrected today we recorded today on the radio with Jeffy, and he says, I used to work for Nabisco, and he says they don't come in a bag. He says they come in a little tray with a plastic wrapper, and I'm like, well, all right. So he says, trust me, I know. Jeffy lost 100 pounds on the program. He's Glenn Beck's sidekick, and he was like, trust me, I know. I used to work for him, and let me tell you, there used to be a lot of broken cookies that would go home with me to my house, or crunched up bags. So again, talking about energy density, and this is just for everyone's reference, and this is all out of Dr. Anderson's book. Again, we try to pull as much information out of there as we can. When you look at this, the highest energy density. So what I like about this is the fact that this little thing is the smallest. That means we should be eating the smallest amount of this stuff right here. Okay, and as you go through, so to understand this here, crackers, chips, chocolate, cookies, nuts, butter, full fat condiments. These are things that are going to be high in the calories, and they're not going to fill you up very much. So those are the things we should be eating the least amount of. And then down here in the mediums, we have meats, cheeses, high fat mixed dishes, salad dressings, some snack foods. Okay, and then that's a little bit generalized, and then when we get into the low energy density, we have cooked grains, cereals with low-fat milk, and typically with cereals, we're talking about like the whole grain type cereals, oatmeal, stuff like that. Not instant oatmeal. Cookie, we're not talking about, Cookie Crisp is not on the list, nor is, the cinnamon cereal, forget that. And then we have meats, beans, legumes, mixed dishes, and salads. And then up here, the lowest energy density would be things like most fruits and vegetables, skim milk, and then broth-based soups. Okay, and you think about that. There's a lot of water jammed in the soup, so you're going to fill up the voids in your tummy much quicker. So these are just things for you to keep in mind as you're going through this. Now, mind you, a lot of this stuff we're talking about is not stuff that you're going to be eating while you're on the program. But the reason we go through these 12 weeks is because understand there's going to be a point where you get to your healthy weight, and it's going to be time for you to start doing things a little bit more on your own and understanding how to live and eat the way that we're meant to eat. And so this is kind of the information we want you to understand. So protein enhancement. Now this is, I actually really like this one. Again, if you look down here, as far as the things that make you feel full, okay, alcohol right there at the bottom. So, that's why they call alcohol an empty calorie, right? So at the bars, what do they have at the bars? They want you to drink as much alcohol as possible because they charge an arm and a leg for it. But, so there's alcohol, and then they have, fats is the next lowest. And so what's in the fats? The peanuts. So they have the salty peanuts on the bar, so they make you thirsty. So you want to drink more alcohol, and neither of those really, fill you up at all. So it's kind of a perfect scenario for them. Plus, they want to give you more alcohol while you're eating because, typically it's going to make you, again, feel less. You're just going to keep eating, So they're pretty tricky in how they do things. They know how things work. But anyways, as you go up, as far as, again, making you feel full, again, no one in here wants to feel like they're starving. And nobody that needs to start the program wants to feel like they're starving. So when we look at this, we really want to understand the foods that are going to make us feel the most full. And so just keep in mind, as you learn this, the better you learn this, the easier it's going to be for you to not feel starving when you're done and off the program. You're going to know how to work with your diet to make things function for you, and find the things that work, find the things that you like that fit into the healthy categories here. Fiber. This one right here is something, we do some continuing education, and fiber is something that much of our American diet is completely devoid of. Because we have so much processed food, and part of the processing of food is they break up all the fiber. all the refined starches, the refined flours, things like that, all these cereals, Cocoa Krispies and all that fun stuff. All of those actually, they refine all the healthy nutrition out of them. And look, if you look here, the fiber does a lot of fantastic things. So it's found in grains, vegetables, fruits. But the great stuff is it helps reduce our blood sugar. We talked earlier about the way our insulin spikes when we eat sugars, and the fibers that are in in our vegetables, in fruits, those actually help bring down the that glycemic index or that insulin response. Those are going to be things, so we can actually, again, if we spike that insulin really high, our body is just really trying to pack all those calories and all that sugar away as quick as it can. That's the insulin's response, and that's the insulin's job, is to get all of that stuff. So the faster and higher that spikes, the more of it's going to get stored. The slower that goes up, the lower of a response that we have. Our body has more of the ability to burn that energy before it ever has time to get stored. That's what we want to be able to do. We want to be able to be bringing energy in and burning it as we're bringing it in. So, and again, so the legumes and all these things that have fantastic fiber are going to be things that are going to help to bring that down. Plus, they're actually going to, they do wonders for our guts. They help rake the junk out. They help keep our guts healthy. So again, there's soluble, there's insoluble. This is right out of Dr. Anderson's book. And so you look at the insoluble is more of the stuff that really rakes your guts clean of all the stuff that sticks to the inner walls. But it actually helps take out fats out of your system. There's a lot of things that the fiber does that's very good for us. And again, fiber is one of those things that helps us feel full for much longer. This right here, so we talk about drinking water. When you're on the program, in fact, this is also another complaint when people are on the program is they're like, gosh, I've never drank so much water in my life. They feel like I'm always drinking, or I'm always going to the bathroom because I'm always drinking. That in and of itself is, 30% of the time that we mistake thirst for hunger. We're actually dehydrated, and we actually mistake that for hunger. Not to mention the fact that even when we're just a little bit dehydrated, it actually slows down our metabolism. So we want to make sure that we stay well hydrated. We want to make sure, as far as I know, there's not much that has less calories than water. So, use the water to your advantage there. So, and then basically, it does so much in our bodies. Our bodies are made up mostly of water. So basically, it's going to be a way to remove toxins. It's going to be a way to flush our system out. We sweat. We actually lose water as we breathe. So, it's a way to just get all the junk out of us. It's actually going to help us. Well, I already talked about metabolism. Actually, I think we pretty much covered everything there. Really the water is what's just going to help keep us functioning correctly. We want everything to pass through to keep us nice and clean, keep us healthy. Not to mention the fact that, many people actually put on weight because they're drinking things other than water. They're drinking their calories as opposed to eating them. For a big 32-ounce soda, it's going to be probably about, I want to say that's got to be 300 plus calories. So, and it's nothing for someone who's a soda drinker. I know, because that's a big thing for me to kick right there. Growing up, I used to drink 2 and 3 32 to 44 ounce sodas a day. That's just what I grew up. I would go to work and get one at 5 o'clock in the morning on the way to work. That's back when I did construction. So I'd get one at 5 o'clock. I'd have my soda, and I'd chase down a few Twinkies or something like that with my soda at 5 in the morning. Usually I'd stop just before I got to the job site and, McDonald's or whatever was on the way, grab some food. And I had an awful diet. It's a wonder I wasn't huge when I was, fortunately I was busy enough to work it off. But, that was easy for me. And that was, so in a day I was drinking over 1,000 calories a day just in soda. So, and there's a lot of people that do exactly what I used to do still. So that's going to catch up to you in a real quick hurry. So just keep that in mind. The more water we learn to drink, and some people hate water, I know. I mean, a lot of the people that we coach on the program, they're like, oh, can I put something in it, anything? You know, I mean, ultimately water is the best when it's just water, you know, without putting some additive into it. But, you know, usually I like to try and say, you know, why don't you do something like lemon or lime? That's an ideal. But, you know, I mean, do what you can. Drink as much water as you can, because learn to like it. You know, it's one of those things that, unfortunately, to be healthy, it's probably one of those things that we really want to learn to like. So, and this is kind of interesting here. And I kind of want to point this out. So the last principle is the waist control. And we're talking about the circumference of the waist. The reason when we start people on a weight loss program, we want to help people get to a healthy weight. And it's more than just, I mean, there's a lot of great things that happen while someone is on their way to getting to their healthy weight. But when you look at this right here, our energy storage system. Okay, so if you look at this, we have this energy storage system. So in a healthy male that is, you know, that's at a healthy BMI, what we have is a little less than 1% of, as far as energy, the way they store their energy in their body. So less than 1% is stored as glycogen. Okay, glycogen in our body is that ready, quick energy. That's the energy you use when you're running from the saber-toothed tiger or you're sprinting. You know, that's why you can only sprint for so far before you hit that wall and you can't go any further, because you burn that up very quickly. However, this is probably the very best, or one of the best storage forms of energy that we have, because it's ready to, you know, it's non-toxic. It's very good for us, okay? And it's you know, we can replenish it fairly quickly as well. The next, you know, our next energy storage is our protein, and you look, it's about 18%. And then, again, in a healthy male, 81% of our energy storage system is in fat, okay? Now, when you come to an unhealthy male, what we see, this is someone who would be considered obese, and what you see is less than 0.5% of their energy storage system is in glycogen. Okay, so now they're storing their energy less efficiently, and it's just because they have excess weight. Protein, their energy storage for protein is only 9.5%, it's like half, as opposed to 18%. So protein is a very good storage system as well. But now you look here, it's 90% of their energy is fat, and basically they have 42 pounds of visceral fat. So they have 42 pounds that they're carrying around their organs, which is really the dangerous kind of fat. Their bodies don't process things the same way as they would if they were at a healthy weight. And so what we want to do, again, the reason we focus on let's get to our healthy weight first, and then we go through this 12-week program, is because we want to make sure that we get you to where your body's functioning the way it was designed to function. We want you to be able to feel, you know, this is when you start getting down to your healthy weight, you notice your energy improve. You notice that, you know, you won't get sick as frequently. Oftentimes people get off, you know, they're taking off their medications from their doctors because their bodies function well. They don't have heartburn like they used to. They sleep better than they used to. They deal with stress better. There is nothing that we can do in our life that will have a greater impact than if we get to a healthy weight, as far as on every level, because mentally, you know, psychologically, emotionally, our weight impacts all of those. Our weight impacts the way our hormones function in our body. Our weight impacts everything. So what we want to do is just keep focused as we go through this. I think that's the last. Well, okay. Last slide is Be Slim. I'll talk about that in a moment. But ultimately, as we do make those goals to get to our healthy weight, you know, we have to understand we're just taking one little baby step at a time. Understanding how to maintain that is critical, because the last thing we want is to help someone in here lose weight just for them to put it back on. We want to make sure when you get to your healthy weight that you're confident that you're going to be able to maintain it. Part of that comes down to the fact that we're in a group setting of people with similar desires, similar effort. They're going through similar struggles even, and working together as a support system. That's one of the greatest things we can do to help get us to where we want to be. We're all just one crummy day away from wanting to jump off the program and go eat something that we shouldn't be. So we want to just keep that in mind. This group is here to help everyone succeed. As every person succeeds, that there's a reason why there's around 50% or 55 pounds lost on average about in this room, is because we feed off of that energy. It makes a difference in how we feel. So I encourage you, continue to come out until you get to your goal, until you're 100% confident that you can master your life and master your weight and master your health. Keep coming. I'll tell you right now, we've been teaching this now for probably over a year now, right? We've been teaching the class. And I learned every time I study, like go over the lessons and read through the book, I pick up little things. This again, and sometimes it's because I've learned it and forgot it, and sometimes I just understand it in a different way how it affects me. So continue to come around until you're confident. Like I said, we want to make sure you get to where you want to be, and we want to make sure that you enjoy your healthy new body for as long as you can. The last thing I want to cover here is the Be Slim lifestyle. And Be Slim is an acronym that Dr. Anderson came up with, and basically it's a way for it's like a simple way for us to remember the things we need to be doing. The first one, B, is for breakfast. Okay, people who have successfully lost weight and kept it off long term on using every program imaginable, basically one of the commonalities was they ate breakfast. Eating breakfast gets our metabolism ramped up. It gets our energy level back up first thing in the morning after we've fasted all night from sleeping. So we want to eat breakfast. That's a habit of health.
Not hash browns, bacon, and eggs.
Not necessarily this. Yeah, making good choices. Occasionally that's fine, but yeah, certainly not regularly. Have a good breakfast. Exercise. Increasing your activity more than what you did before is what we want to do. We're not necessarily saying everyone in here has to be a gym rat, but find those things that you can do to be more active than you were. So, what's that?
Next week we go over that.
Oh, do we?
7, yeah. We're going to start talking about being more active.
Oh, great. So next week we talk a little bit about the exercise. We'll kind of, and that's just one of the sequential lessons. Support. Again, this room right here is powerful for a lot of people to be here because that support is, some people don't have support at home. We actually as health coaches, we run into that frequently with individuals that they're like, man, I don't really have much support from my family, my kids. My kids want to eat things that I don't or that I can't on the program. So to come here and know that you have support from other people that are doing the same thing is very, very important. Not to mention the support of your health coach. The health coaches have been through what you're going through or are still going through what you're going through. So keep that in mind. Low-fat meals 5 to 6 times a day. Or basically, we want to make good meal choices, and we want to eat 5 to 6 times a day. We want to keep our energy nice and level throughout the day. That's a habit of health. The studies that are, Dr. Anderson cites a study. They actually have done, they've taken 2 groups of people, giving them the same food, the same calories, the same food. One group they ate 3 times a day. The second group they ate 5 times a day. And the second group, when they compared the lab work and the blood work of each group, the second group that ate 5 times a day had healthier blood chemistry, meaning that their fats were better, their cholesterols were better, everything was healthier, not to mention more of them lost weight than those that only ate 3 times a day. And it was the same food. So there really is something powerful about eating those frequent meals, about keeping that blood sugar nice and even. So keep that in mind. Individual plans, listen, we're all different. We all have different triggers. We all have things that, we don't all lose weight at the same speed. We don't lose, some of us might lose only a pound a week, and some of us might lose much more than that. We're all very different. So understand that we all are individuals, but also understand that having a plan for how we're going to get to where we want to be is critical. If we don't know what we're doing next, as soon as we're not prepared, that's when, McDonald's is always going to be there. So's Taco Bell, so's all the other junk food places that are out there. They're always going to be around us. And if we don't have a plan for what we're doing to get to where we want to be, those are going to be the places that we end up. Just because it's easy, it's convenient, and it's fast. And then monitoring, this one right here, it's 60 people who check their weight once they get to their healthy weight and monitor it regularly are basically more than twice as successful. What is that?
80% stay within 10.
So 80% stay within within 5 or 10 pounds of their goal weight, as opposed to half of that. They have a 50% improved success rate just by monitoring frequently. And keeping in mind, it doesn't have to be a scale. Some people really have they really don't like scales at all, and that's cool. Find a good pair of pants. Find a good tight pair of pants or a shirt. I was talking with a gal recently. She says, "Ooh, I have these really cute running shorts that lately I've had some stuff hanging over that I don't necessarily like, but I really like the shorts." And so that's her gauge, is when she can get into those shorts and not see the muffin top hanging over. She's like, then I'm good. She's like, but I'm not getting rid of those shorts. I like them. So, honestly, those types of things are great. Find something that, that you used to wear that you liked or that you looked good in, and keep it. On the other end, as you do lose weight, the clothes that you used to fit into, get rid of them. Give them away. Donate them. Sell them. Do whatever you can. Close that door behind you. Because when, just because your clothes are getting tight doesn't mean you need to go buy bigger clothes. It means you need to focus on where you're at and say, okay, these are getting tight again. What do I got to do? Because it's a lot easier to lose 5 or 10 pounds than it is to, just keep letting things get away from you, and all of a sudden you have to lose 30, 40 pounds. So just know, when you graduate out and you slim down a little, get rid of that stuff. Close that door behind you, and that's a fantastic way of keeping yourself in check. Like I said, with clothes, even with a pair of jeans, jeans aren't very forgiving. You can fluctuate 10 or 15 pounds in a given size of jeans. So when you get to a point where you're like, all right, when you're having to unbutton the button, at that point it's like you got to get serious about getting back to where you want to be. Get serious, because it's like I said, in a matter of a month you could be down 10 or 15 pounds, rather than having to really worry about 50, 60. So this right here, and again, pretty much each of these we kind of go through, like Dr. Arnold said, next week we talk about exercise, and we kind of progress. We don't just start out with hitting you at the gym. We start with literally just with walking, with increasing our movement, ways we can increase our movement through doing our normal daily activities. We also talk I want to say it's week 10, we actually talk about, with support, actually helping others lose weight is actually a habit of health. Getting your friends to do this with you actually will help you with your own success. Not to mention theirs, it will help you with your own. It's actually, when we surround ourselves with people that want to get healthy, it makes a difference. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about how we eat, what we're eating, and then just kind of move through it. So, are there any questions in particular? Any struggles? Please.
You refer to a book. What book are we talking about?
Dr. I'll show you right after. I actually meant to bring it in here. I've got one in the office. It's Dr. Anderson's Habits of Health and the Companion Guide, and I'll give you an idea what that. Thank you, Tony. Basically, this here is kind of the text. This is what has, this is where we've pulled a lot of these slides from, and this here is more of the journal. This is your workbook where you're going to write down, things that are pertaining to you as we go through these exercises. So these together, and just so you know, people that are using this are having, bumping the button. People that use the book actually are significantly more successful at losing weight. So this information is very, very, very important for, not just getting to your goal, but the long-term success of getting healthy. So, and again, it makes our job easier too, because we can refer to it And if you're kind of reading along, you'll be like, oh yeah, I remember reading that. So it'll make things very easy for you to understand.
What chapter should we read for next week?
No.
13 and 14.
Okay. 13 and 14 for next week. And
Lesson 11.
Lesson 11. Thank you. So thank you for joining us on the camera. And if you guys have any questions afterward, we're going to be around for about 15 minutes and we can answer questions and individually, and happy to do it.